salamat. Napakaraming cabinet member po rito, mga secretary, mga napakatataas na mga opisyal ng ating pamahalaan. Can we say that as secretaries and high government officials, you are the alter egos of the president, particularly those in the cabinet? Tama po ba yun?
That is correct.
Thank you. And as you are all in the executive branch, can we say you are bound by the words and statements of the president?
Yes, Madam President, as we are bound to by executive privilege for the President.
Thank you. May I recall a clip derived from 18 February 2023. President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. said the following, and the clip is here.
Sila dito, pero magturista lang sila.
I'm sorry, this seems to be an earlier statement, 2022.
Tawag ko sa ICC, the ICC is there pagka walang judiciary na nag-ooperate sa isang bansa. Dahil nagkagera, dahil nasira lahat, the economy has collapsed, etc., etc., for whatever reason. Diyan papasok ang ICC. We have a functioning judiciary. And that's why I do not see the need for a foreigner to come and do the job for us, to do the job for our judicial system. Our judicial system is perfectly capable of doing that. And it also raises a great many questions about jurisdiction and sovereignty. What is their jurisdiction to come here into the Philippines and conduct an investigation? Is that not a violation of our rights as a sovereign nation in the community of nations? Those questions need to be answered before they can be allowed any investigation.
Senator Bobong, maraming salamat.
Oh my, that went very quickly. Maraming
Maraming salamat. Thank you for your time. God bless you.
No. You have misread it. We do not cooperate with the ICC. That is the position of this government.
Pero pag ni-red notice po ng Interpol, we will be obliged to participate.
As Secretary Remulla explained before, we have obligations to Interpol, and we have to live up to those obligations.
And therefore, the next step,
Interpol.
Okay, let me say this for the 100th time. I do not recognize the jurisdiction of ICC in the Philippines. I consider it as a threat to our sovereignty. Therefore, the Philippine government will not lift a finger to help any investigation that the ICC conducts. However, as ordinary people, they can come and visit the Philippines. Pero hindi kami tutulong sa kanila. In fact, binabantayan namin sila, making sure that hindi sila that they do not come into contact with any agency of government. And if they are contacting agencies of government, na sasabihin yung whatever, policeman, local government, sabihin nyo, wag nyo sasagutin. Yun ang sagot natin. That we do not recognize your jurisdiction, therefore we will not assist in any way, shape, or form any of the investigations that the ICC is doing here in the Philippines.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
That's it? All right.
Okay. On the 18th of February, the president said, my position has not changed. I have stated it often, even before I took office as president, that there are many questions about ICC's jurisdiction and that we here in the Philippines regard as an intrusion into our internal matters and a threat to our sovereignty. Does the DFA agree with this statement? And do we abide by this position until today? Anyone from the DFA, please?
Madam Chair, good morning.
Yes, you recognize USEC.
Yes, thank you. Well, as I speak right now, the Philippines is not a member of the ICC. And the DFA defers to the Department of Justice as the implementing agency when it comes to cooperation on ICC matters. Madam Chair.
Yes, so to the best of your knowledge and in the consideration of the DFA, we are not a member of the ICC.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. And the DOJ, having been referred to, may I call on Secretary Remulla, please, to clarify this issue.
We are not members of the ICC, ma'am. So, whatever relationship we have with the ICC is on an arm's length basis if we have to talk to them. But we have never spoken to them.
I'm
we
sorry,
have never spoken to
Secretary, I
them.
didn't hear you. Whatever relationship we have
It's on an arm's length basis, meaning very transparent if ever. But we have never spoken to them.
arm's length.
Yes, ma'am.
So you have had contact even at
No, ma'am.
arm's length?
We do not have any contact. What we're saying is we are very transparent about what we do, and we have never had any contact with the ICC.
So you uphold the statement of the President saying that the ICC has no jurisdiction here in the Philippines. Is that correct?
Ma'am, jurisdiction of the ICC is throughout the world. We belong to a community of nations
Regardless
that
of
is
those
tied
who are
together by a legal system called international humanitarian law. It is something adopted by more than 150 countries in the world. International humanitarian law, which became a law in 2009 or 2010. And that law, that domestic law, is what we adhere to in this case.
Are you referring to RA 9851?
Yes, ma'am.
Because you indicated the date of 2009. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. So therefore, we are not members of the ICC.
We are not members of the ICC since President Duterte withdrew our membership in 2018, effective 2019.
Okay. That being the position of the DILG, I assume that Secretary Remulla in the DILG also maintains the same.
Yes, ma'am. I defer to the wisdom of the Department of Justice.
And the PNP, General Marbil, please.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Thank you. If that is therefore an unqualified yes, and you are in agreement with the President that the ICC has no jurisdiction whatsoever, what was the DOJ referring to as the ICC's jurisdiction in the Philippines being different from us being a member? What is the distinction, please?
Ma'am, the ICC tries people for individual crimes, not states. So the Philippines, as a state, cannot be called upon by the ICC to do something for them. But when the ICC is running after individuals who are Filipino citizens, then that obligation becomes another kind of obligation.
So that therefore the Senate ratification of the ICC at the time that it was ratified is of no weight. Regardless, you will fall under the jurisdiction of the ICC under
Well, for
the so-called
individuals-
international.
Yes, madam.
humanitarian- that is your belief, DOJ.
Yes, madam. When there are
Regardless of
individuals
being a party
being
or not being a party?
there are individuals being asked by the ICC to explain, it is another matter. As a state is different from an individual. We all know that we have to.
I think that is
the
not the
individuals
question.
being charged by the ICC will have to face the ICC.
I'm perplexed. The DFA made it very clear that as we withdrew, we are no longer a state party to the treaty. And now you're saying that we can nevertheless fall under the ICC, under the generic rubric of international humanitarian law. So it doesn't matter whether you sign or do not sign, whether
Yes,
you
ma'am.
ratify
It
or
doesn't
do not
matter, ma'am.
ratify.
It doesn't
makes no
matter.
difference.
No, that doesn't make any difference anymore.
Are you certain?
I'm certain.
Okay, Attorney Saret, please, from DFA. Is that the position of the DFA?
Madam Chair, I concur with my USEC, the current acting SFA, that as far as we are concerned, we're no longer members of the ICC, ma'am.
And as non-members, can we possibly fall under the jurisdiction of the ICC under the rubric of international humanitarian law? Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, I think, because we, under the,
What's the use of signing or ratifying a treaty if it bears no weight?
yes, ma'am. I defer, ma'am, to Secretary Remulla.
May
on
I?
this one, ma'am.
I think it's your purview, your DFA.
Yes, ma'am. But yes, ma'am. Technically, we are no longer a member of the ICC, but we might be obligated under residual jurisdiction, as what the Supreme Court in one case already mentioned, that we still have residual jurisdiction. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes,
Madam Chair, if I may.
I'm a little bit perplexed given that you are part of the executive. The president has said, as he said for the 100th time, that we are not under the ICC. Why is the SOJ now saying that we are nevertheless somehow, in some miraculous way, under the rubric of the international humanitarian law, still under its jurisdiction?
Your Honor, it is not the Philippines that is under the jurisdiction. It is the individuals who are charged by the ICC, which is under the jurisdiction. There is a distinction, ma'am.
Please explain.
As non-members of the ICC, and as a state, the ICC has no jurisdiction over us as a country. But over the individuals who may have committed crimes that violate international humanitarian law, that is a universal value being held by the whole world today. That people cannot cross borders and hide behind boundaries so that they can run away from the law. International humanitarian law is something adopted. The principles are adopted by more than 150 countries throughout the world, Your Honor.
Are you of the position, therefore, that international humanitarian law, as you said, is customary law? Is that the consideration?
It is already customary law now. As we speak, it has become customary law throughout the world.
Are you aware that procedural and admin matters do not form part of customary law? Surely the Secretary is well aware that procedural and administrative matters will still have to comply with the laws of the land.
Of course, Madam, this goes without saying.
Okay, thank you. Senator Jinggoy, I think you wanted to interject at this juncture. We recognize the Senator.
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you very much. The DFA, the DOJ, the DILG, and the PNP has already admitted that we are not members of the Philippines is not a member of the ICC. Therefore, why did we surrender a Filipino citizen before the ICC? Anyone can answer, Madam Chair.
We surrendered an individual to the ICC who was a subject of a warrant of arrest. That's what we did.
I did not hear you again.
Mr. Senator, we surrendered an individual to the ICC. We did not surrender as a country, but he was surrendered due to a warrant of arrest issued by the ICC through the Interpol.
Senator Jinggoy, any follow-up questions, please? Thank you. If that's the case, while we've attempted to retrieve Senator Jinggoy, let me just pursue the question of the international humanitarian law being customary law. Since procedural and administrative matters do not fall under customary law, ICC processes, therefore, are not part and parcel.
Madam Chair, the distinction of the ICC process of issuing a warrant of arrest is something accepted through a treaty, the International Police Organization.
You have just contradicted yourself, sir. You said it was customary, and now you're saying it's by treaty.
We can be very technical about it, ma'am.
Sorry.
But we can be very technical about it if you wish to be. But the fact is, it is our accession to the Interpol which made all of this possible.
We will go to the Interpol later. Let us discuss the ICC at this juncture. So while I will go with you for the sake of argument that the IHL, or International Humanitarian Law, has now become accepted as part of international customary law, I am unable to accept that ICC processes and administrative procedures as well are now part of customary law. I don't think so.
The processes are not part of customary law. We have our own administrative processes. If you ask me about this, Madam, we can say that the IHL is the domestic law that we followed in recognizing the warrant of arrest issued against Rodrigo Roa Duterte.
Which domestic law and process did
Republic Act 9851, Your Honor.
as mentioned previously?
Yes, as mentioned previously, and within the provisions allows us two options, either extradition or surrender. We chose the executive mode, which is surrender.
We will go to that later, but at this juncture, therefore, I get an acceptance from the Secretary that, in fact, the processes that should have prevailed should have been those stipulated under RA 9851 or our own local law.
We follow the process, ma'am.
Thank you. So that's correct. On the same day, if I may proceed, the President also said, I do not see what its jurisdiction is, referring once again to the ICC. Can we bring back the video? I think there is a statement there. I feel that we have in our police and judiciary a good system. We do not need assistance from any outside entity. Again, as part of the executive department, you have subscribed to this view, I assume.
Yes, Madam.
So to clarify, the statement means that the President was not recognizing the jurisdiction of the ICC over the crimes allegedly committed by the former President. Is that correct?
We do not recognize the jurisdiction of the ICC over our country. What we recognize is the jurisdiction of the ICC over individuals who may have violated international humanitarian law by committing murder and other heinous crimes.
If I may, I think the President was referring to the jurisdiction of the ICC over crimes, specifically crimes committed by PRRD. Isn't that so?
Can you rephrase your question, ma'am?
Well, you said that while the ICC has no jurisdiction over the Philippines as a state, it maintains jurisdiction over individuals and crimes under
Yes,
the
ma'am.
international humanitarian order.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. What the President said is that there is no jurisdiction over the crimes committed by the former President.
Well,
Because we have a functioning police and judiciary system. Unless you submit that we don't.
submit that we don't what, ma'am?
That we don't have a functioning police force.
We have a functioning
or
police
a
force.
Judiciary.
We have a judiciary. But what we are dealing with here
You're
is crimes
contradicting your
committed
President,
14 years
Secretary.
ago to 2019. We're talking about a timeline, Your Honor, that we were not even here yet, and that it is very hard. Ma'am, may I continue?
Yes, carry on.
Well,
yes.
it is very difficult for us. We made our
No, the
commitments.
President made it very clear.
We
have
made our
a functioning-
commitments to the United Nations that we would investigate all of these crimes committed during the drug war. And it was not a very easy task, ma'am, because the people that we expect to be cooperating with us were not. So, although we're still doing our investigations on the EJ case, on the extrajudicial killings committed during that time,
Yes, I'm not reviewing the drug war. This is a Foreign Relations Committee hearing.
Yes, ma'am.
But in this statement, the President clearly means jurisdiction over individuals. It's very, very clear. There's no area for quibbling. And if you say there's jurisdiction over individuals, I don't believe that you are in agreement with your president. As a matter of fact, the ICC does not try countries, after all. They do try.
Our
individuals,
views
however.
evolve during times, at times. And I don't
So you
know
do admit
if he
that
still
you-
has the same view up to today, because we are talking about a clip which was done 1.5 years ago. Our minds can change, ma'am. We cannot just stay in one rut and say that this is the absolute, because our minds may change, and we are allowed that by the law of man and the law of God.
Yes, of course. Of course, we all change our minds, and Mr. Secretary. So you are saying that the president changed his mind?
Well, I
When did he
will not,
change
cannot
his
speak
mind?
for him, Madam. I cannot speak for him. Your conclusions are really your own, and I cannot adopt your conclusions here.
They're not my conclusions. It's a bold statement, which really.
Well, your
does not-
statements of belief are your own, ma'am. I cannot adapt to your statements of belief, but I respect them.
The statement of the president is very, very clear-cut. I would like to show also a letter in December of 2023. Do we have it on hand? Can you enlarge it so that it's much clearer? Okay. On screen is a letter dated 15 December 2023 addressed to Vice President Sara Duterte, where the President says that the jurisdiction of the ICC over the Republic after the effectivity of its withdrawal is very much in question, and I'm certain that all the members will echo my views on the matter. Would you like to comment? Anyone would like to comment on the said letter? Is it correct that if this was in fact a work in progress, as stated by Secretary Remulla, as of 15 December 2023, all the secretaries and undersecretaries already holding such positions at that time also viewed the ICC as having no jurisdiction over the country, as stated by the President himself in the letter?
We did not assist the ICC, ma'am. We continued with the very tenor of the letter, that we did not assist the ICC. We never had contact with them.
We'll go
The
there.
investigation that they conducted was through their own methods, and we did not in any way assist them. As said in your letter, we cannot.
It's
we
not
did
my
not.
letter, sir, it's the President's.
It's a president's letter. We did not assist them.
I think that's not the question. My question is simply to say that as of that date, all those in the cabinet were in agreement with the President's statement. Is that correct, Secretary Teodoro? As of 15 December.
Ma'am, the President's statement is binding, and I defer to Secretary Remulla that we did not, that no government agency, the DND, never cooperated with the ICC as in accordance with the statement.
Okay, and are there any other secretaries who'd like to verify that? We have Director Anyo, Director General Anyo. I believe you are cabinet rank as well, and the NSC sits with the President. Is it correct to say that everyone maintained the same position?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct. But we did not assist the ICC in their investigation.
I don't think at this juncture we're asking about assisting the ICC. All we're asking is whether, in fact, you all agree that the ICC had no jurisdiction.
I think, ma'am, what we're talking about here is, if it's in the case of the former president, the case was committed while the Philippines is still a member of the ICC.
Okay. I don't know, is there anyone of cabinet rank as well? I'm certain that the DFA will probably hold the same position, that you are all in agreement with effectively your boss as his alter ego, that the ICC had no jurisdiction, as stated in the letter quite clearly.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you very much, Yusek. Okay, and then in January of 2024, the President then said, let me say this for the 100th time. I think we've seen that clip before. Can we bring it back? Yes, for the 100th time, I do not recognize the jurisdiction of the ICC. The Philippine government will not lift a finger to help any investigation that the ICC conducts. So, at the risk of really belaboring the point, may I confirm is the DOJ, at least as of early last year, was of the stance that ICC had no jurisdiction and the Philippines would not lift a finger, in the words of the President.
The ICC never had does not have jurisdiction over the Philippines, Your Honor. And we did not lift a finger to help them at all.
So we affirm that we never at any juncture lifted a finger.
Yes, Your Honor.
Also, I think the Secretary of Justice vehemently asserted the same during that time. May we have the PowerPoint, please? Are these your words, Secretary?
Yes. Those are my words.
Right. And there is no jurisdiction, and we have an inherent right to determine our own legal framework and address internal matters.
Yes, Your Honor.
So also there is an assertion that our justice system is robust and functional. Your words, sir.
Yes, Your Honor.
However, 10 days later, after Secretary Remulla gave the above statement, on 20 February, there seems to be a slight yet significant change in the tone of the President's rhetoric when he said, I am not certain if we have the PowerPoint. Do we have a slide with the President? I don't approve or deny it, but you know the ICC, haven't done anything illegal. We will do something about it. We are an open country. Maybe clarified as to what the President meant, given that there seems to be a determined change in attitude, that in fact we are an open country. And until they being ICC, do something illegal, wala siyang gagawin para hintuin sila. Parang naiba ang usapin.
I will have to ask what question was asked of the President before I make any response, because I do not know what context the President said those words.
I think it's not unclear. Hanggang may gawin sila na illegal. May I ask the PNP, the DFA, anong ibig sabihin if they do something illegal? Na nanghimasok sila, na may ginawa sila sa Pilipinas?
Maybe I can answer that better, ma'am. An example would be to take an oath of somebody within the Philippine legal system. They are not allowed to do that.
Okay, so until such time as they do something illegal, like requiring an oath of someone being entirely unauthorized as foreigners, is that your meaning?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Does this mean that the Philippine government was allowing the ICC to enter and investigate, provided they did not amount to any illegal action?
Nobody ever identified themselves as the ICC when they entered our country, if ever they entered our country. So we did not allow them, if that is the only meaning of your question, we did not allow them, as we did not know any entry of any ICC person in the country.
The President's statement seems to suggest otherwise. We are an open country. So
yes, ma'am, but we could not.
That there, in fact, were others coming through.
Well, we suppose that people were coming in and out of our borders. We have millions and millions of people entering our ports and airports, and we cannot ask all of them if they are related to the ICC or not. We cannot do that, ma'am.
Okay, perhaps we can call on Secretary Año. Did you have any information that, in fact, the ICC had resumed its investigation? Because clearly there is a pivot in the President's statement. Perhaps you can enlighten us?
Ma'am, as far as the NSC is concerned, we have not monitored any investigation conducted by the ICC inside the country.
So, at no point after the pre-trial chamber authorized the prosecutor to resume its investigation, did in fact resume its investigation in the Philippines?
We don't have any information that they conducted an investigation here, but probably in
Bakit
their own
nabanggit ng
base.
Pangulo na meron ng possibly illegal entry and that in fact they were welcome since we were an open country? Ano kaya ibig sabihin nun?
Ma'am, may I?
Yeah, may I refer to the DOJ, ma'am?
Yes, please.
Yes, ma'am. It's really important that we know the context by which the president gave the statement. If we do not know the question, we cannot understand the answer. I think that it's very basic, ma'am.
Yes, and we're all subject to the media. I just found this through the media. I am not aware of any specific or special context. My understanding is that it was an interview, as is usually given by public officials.
Yes, ma'am, but it's usually the context by which we are asked a question that we give an answer. So unless we hear the exact question that he was asked, we cannot give you a complete answer to this question, ma'am.
Perhaps this will be clearer. November 14, 2024, the president was quoted as saying, "If that's the wish of Duterte, we will not block the ICC. We will not just cooperate." I think this requires no context. It's pretty straightforward and direct.
Well, we also want to know his response to what stimulus, because if there's a question, we want to know. We still want to know the question.
Simply, he was asked if he approved of the presence of the ICC in the Philippines. There seemed to be some awareness in the public and in the media that the ICC was already here. So they asked the president, "What do you think?" And he said, "We will not block them. We will not just cooperate." There's clearly a change in tone and in order.
Well, if they have not violated any law, I don't think that we should be alarmed at anything that they're doing here, as long as they are not violating our laws.
What does not blocking the ICC mean? Non-cooperation, I think we mentioned that.
Well, still non-cooperation, because we never, up to now, had any communication with the ICC, officially or unofficially.
Again, I remind you of the president's statement earlier, "We'll not do anything about the ICC as long as they don't do anything illegal." Isn't this tantamount already to blocking the ICC and not cooperating?
Can you put the question into context, ma'am, please?
There is no context. It's simply that previously the president said that the government will not do anything about the ICC, like you commented on, unless they do something illegal in the Philippines. Is this not tantamount to blocking the ICC?
Well, blocking the ICC, we never knew that they were here. We cannot do something that we do not even know or identify the people who are supposed to be blocked. So I don't see the logic, ma'am.
No, it's a simple question, straightforward. As of November 14 last year, ang sinabi ng Pangulo, no blocking, pero no cooperation din. Tama?
Marahil, yun siguro ho, mas maganda hong Tagalogin natin, hindi tayo tutulong sa kanila. Hindi tayo tutulong. Hindi tayo hahadlang, ngunit hindi tayo tutulong. Yung paghadlang kasi, wala
ng anuman investigasyon, pwera lang kapag illegal na ang ginagawa. Pero
ganun nga ho yun.
Hindi rin tayo tutulong.
Ganun ho ang batas natin eh. Nanguhuli lang po tayo pag may ginawa ho mali. May ginawa ho paglabag sa batas.
Ang maliwanag dito, nag-umpisa na ang investigasyon. As of November nung nakaraan.
Hindi ko po masasabi yun. Kasi wala po akong contact, wala po akong alam na ganung hong usapin nung panahon na yun.
So ang ibig sabihin, hindi pa nag-uumpisa ang investigasyon, nagsasalita lang ang presidente ng kusa?
Depende nga ho sa tanong. Ang problema ho,
sa dating salita?
Ang problema ho, kung hindi natin alam ang tanong, paano natin malalaman kung paano ba dyan sinagot yung tanong sa ganung paraan? Kaya kung pwede ho, ilagay nyo natin
Kasi sabi ko lang ng
ilagay
tanong.
po natin sa talata yung tanong na tinanong kay Pangulo para malaman natin kung ano ang kanyang sinasabi. Kasi hindi ho eh. Ang ganitong salita po ay response po sa isang tanong. Kaya dapat yung tanong po sana iharap niyo po sa atin para buo ang pag-uusap. Tsaka sino po ang nagtanong? Anong pagkakataon niyo ang tinanong?
Ang media ang nagtanong at ang simpleng tanong, aprobado mo ba ang presensya ng ICC in the Philippines? I think the identity of the media is irrelevant. The question is, does he approve of the ICC in the Philippines? Ang sabi niya, simple lang naman, ay kapag walang illegal, talaga naman sasalubungin natin sa ating bansa pagkat tayo ay bukas at malaya.
Yun nga ho, tama ho yun. Yun ang sinabi niya. Talaga hong hanggang wala hong ginagawang illegal ang tao, ay pababayaan natin silang manatili sa tahimik.
Tama. Ngayon, ang ibig sabihin nito, nag-umpisa na ang ICC investigation. Maybe we ask Secretary Anyo, please. Bilang NSC, baka mas alam ninyo kung kailan nag-umpisa yung parating nila, yung pabalik-balik po nila.
Madam Chair, wala po kaming impormasyon. Hindi po kami aware na nagkaroon ng investigation dito ang ICC ng mga panahon na yan.
As of November noong nakaraang taon, wala pang ICC investigation anuman na nalalaman po ninyo?
Wala po kaming nalalamang investigation. At wala po kaming namomonitor na pumuntang ICC investigators.
So ganun din ang ating Deputy DG Erico, si DG Guloy, baka may maidagdag kayo. Dahil ang pagkaintindi namin, pag narinig mo, nabasa mo, simpleng pagkaintindi, sinabi na ni Presidente hindi namin pagbabawalan. Ano kaya yun na pagbabawalan? Kung hindi pa nag-umpisa, bakit sinasabi niya hindi ko pagbabawalan hanggang hindi illegal? Nakakapagtaka.
Ganon din po, Madam Chair. Wala rin po kaming informasyon at saka na-monitor na meron po ICC during that period, Madam Chair.
So ang Pangulong mag-isa ang nagsabi na hahayaan niya, pwera lang kapag illegal na ang gawain. Siya lang mag-isa ang nagsabi nun, ngunit kayo, wala naman kayong impormasyon na naibigay sa kanya tungkol doon.
Opo, Madam Chair. Wala po kaming impormasyon na ibigay kay Presidente po, Madam Chair.
Thank you. As we speak today, what is the stance of the executive? Does the ICC have jurisdiction over the crimes committed in the Philippines between November 2011 and March 19, 2019?
We just follow the Supreme Court's dictum in the case of Pangilinan Cayetano.
And that is?
That is, residual jurisdiction is there up to 1 year from the date of withdrawal of the Philippines.
Up to 1 year, right?
Yes,
Should
Madam.
bring us to
March 2019.
2020.
2019. Yes, ma'am.
So, pati yung residual jurisdiction na sinasabi po ninyo, hanggang 2019 na lang.
Yes, ma'am.
So,
yun
wala
po
na
sabi
kayo.
ng Korte Suprema.
Tama. So, ngayon wala na. Maski residual jurisdiction, wala na rin.
Wala na po, wala na po.
Kasi 1 year lang eh.
Pero tandaan po natin, ma'am, na ang ICC sa buong mundo ay tinitingnan ang ginagawa ng mga individual na marahil ay nakakapanakit sa kapwa nila at gumagawa po ng pag-violate ng mga karapatan ng mga tao. Yun po yung tinitingnan po na ICC rito eh. Kaya ho, hindi po yan ang ating tinitingnan eh. Ang tinitingnan po natin talaga, ano pa talaga ang ICC? Ang ICC ay tinatag upang habulin yung mga individual na lumabag sa batas ng tao at sa batas ng Diyos. Yun ang pagkakaunawa ko.
Kung yung ICC may jurisdiction at hindi pa nag-umpisa ng anumang investigasyon nung nakaraang taon, nung Nobyembre, anong ibig sabihin ng Presidente nung may pagbabago? Nung sinabi niya na hindi tayo hahadlang, pero hindi rin tayo magko-cooperate. Ba't niya sinabi yon? Biglang iba na ang tono, biglang nagbago. Kayo nga nagsabi, dapat talaga nagbabago ang palaisipan ng tao.
Ganun po talaga dapat ho, hindi tayo, hindi natin itataga sa bato ang pwede ho maging hindi totoo.
Siyempre natututo tayo sa
Po,
habang panahon.
natataldahan po tayo.
Taon.
Oho.
Tama. So, ang ibig sabihin, ang Pangulo nagbago rin ang palaisipan.
Marahil po.
So, ang sa kanya, may jurisdiction na pala.
Hindi ko ho pwedeng sabihin ang state of mind niya.
Opo.
Pero sinasabi ko lang ho, bilang tao, lahat po tayo pwede magbago ang pag-iisip.
Hindi ko naman hinihingi yung state of mind po. Ang tinatanong ko lang, maliwanag naman yung statement na sinabi niya na pwede tayong magpapasok ng ICC sa ating bansa. Pwera lang kapag illegal ang ginagawa. Tama?
Hindi ho natin sinasabing imbitado sila rito. Hindi ho natin sinasabi na haharapin natin sila. Ngunit ang tao ho ay labas-pasok sa Pilipinas.
Pero hindi
at tayo po ay mga being very hospitable people, we welcome all people who want to partake of the beauty of our country. Ayun po yung ating pinag-uusapan dito.
Pero hindi po ba yung mas maagang mga statement, yung mga unang statement, talagang hindi daw siya lalahok sa anumang investigasyon. Ngayon, hahayaan lang niya. Tama po.
Marahil po, marahil.
nagbago.
Sabi ko nga ho,
Nagbabago naman nga.
Nagbabago naman ang pagtingin natin lahat sa buhay. Hindi naman po ang pagtingin natin nung tayo 20 anyos at ngayon ay pareho pa rin.
Sana naman
na tumatanda rin po tayo. Natututo rin po tayo.
So do you mean to tell me that after saying 100 times that the ICC has no jurisdiction, the President at the 101st time changed his mind and determined that there was somehow some kind of jurisdiction that allowed them to come here and investigate?
I cannot comment on his state of mind when he said that.
I don't think it's a question of state of mind, sir. It's statements.
His statement would speak for itself.
When did the executive then change his mind, given that we are admitting he changed his mind, at least to some degree?
Well, I cannot agree to the question, ma'am, is very vague, if you ask me.
Hindi, nagbago, di ba? Nung una, sabi niya talagang haharangan niya.
Because I cannot, as I said earlier, ma'am,
Tapos biglang sinabi na bukas ang Pilipinas. Kung nag-iimbestiga sila, papasukin. Pwera lang pag may ginagawang illegal o may krimen.
Again, I can say that
pagbabago po
hindi ko ako pwedeng magkomento sa state of mind niya. Kung paano ho nag-iisip ang Pangulo, hindi pa ako
tinatanong kung
magkomento.
galit, wala naman akong tinatanong kung masaya. Yun ang state of mind. Ang tinatanong ko, doon sa sinabi, hindi ba maliwanag na nag-iba?
Sabi ko nga ho, lahat tayo nagbabago ng pag-iisip sa pagdaan po ng panahon.
Okay.
Tayo po ay natututo naman ng unti-unti at nauunawaan natin ng gusto ang mga pangyayari sa paligid natin.
Kung aaminin natin na nagbago ang pag-iisip, bakit? At kailan nagbago yung pag-iisip natin tungkol sa jurisdiction ng ICC? Bakit? At meron bang dahilan? Baka may alam ang DND, baka may alam ang NSC para maintindihan natin kung saan na tayo ngayon. Kasi tayo ay nag-iimbestiga in aid of legislation. Gusto ko malaman saan ba tayo patungo. Ano na ba ngayon? Palibasa, eto nga, admitido natin, nagbago. Kung nagbago, saan na tayo ngayon?
Siguro po yung pag-unawa po ng ICC jurisdiction. Kasi nung nag-aapela pa tayo sa ICC na sinasabi natin na hindi tayo saklaw dito. Marahil yung isang paggising natin sa katotohanan na ang hinahabol ng ICC ay hindi naman bansa, ngunit individual. Marahil yun po yung pag-unawa na nagbago sa ating lahat. Kasi hindi naman po estado natin ang hinihimok ng ICC, kundi po yung mga individual dito na nagkasala at yung naging biktima po ng mga krimen at ng mga pamilya po ng mga biktima ng mga pagpatay nung panahon na yun.
Okay. At sabihin natin may limited cooperation sa ICC. Sabihin natin, nung 13 November, si ASEC ES Bersamin pala, ay nagsabi that if the ICC refers the process to Interpol, which may then transmit a red notice to the Philippines, the government will feel obliged to consider the red notice. Parang may ganon, may statement ba dyan? yung kay E.S.
Alala ko po yung statement na yun.
Naalala po
Opo.
niya.
Opo.
Oo. So, yung pagbabago ay malinaw. Kasi pati si Executive Secretary, diniin na nagbago nga talaga. Tama po ba? Kasi sabi niya, lalo kapag may pulang notisya.
Marahil ho dahil ito sa mga karanasan natin sa mga nakaraang buwan na tumutulong po ang Interpol sa ating bansa. Kaya ang paggalang natin sa Interpol ay ganun-ganun na lamang. Hindi po natin pinababayaan na magkasamaan ng loob sa Interpol sapagkat sila po ay ating inaasahan sa maraming pagkakataon.
Tama, talagang lumalahok tayo at umaasa sa Interpol. Ngayon, nung January, kayo po nagsalita at tatanungin ko kung tama po ba to. At sinabi na the Marcos administration ay uupo kasama na ng ICC. Talagang uupuan na natin to discuss certain areas of cooperation. So, hindi na no cooperation, no blocking, no limited. At tatalakayin ang ibang mga areas kung pwede, kung saan pwede makipagkaisa. Tama ba yun?
Hindi ko naalala yung statement.
January 2025 po, sinabi ninyo, uupo kayo kasama ng ICC para malaman doon sa kanilang investigasyon ukol sa libo-libong pagpapatay ng drug war ni Presidente Duterte. Sabi mo, ayon sa report, na yung cooperation with an international tribunal ay pinapayagan sa ating batas. At yung ICC representatives have been going in and out of the country without any of us raising anything. January 2025 po.
So ano ho yung tanong?
Ang sinasabi ko, what happened to the President's statement that the government will not lift a finger? And what happens to your own assertion that there will be no blocking but no cooperation? Ngayon, nakikipagtungo na tayo sa ICC.
Hindi, yun po yung sinasabi natin nagiging bukas ang ating isipan, ngunit hindi po natin ginawa. Hindi po tayo nakiupo, hindi tayo nakipag-usap. Yun po yung malinaw sa lahat.
Pero handa kayo nun, ngunit hindi natuloy. Ganun po ba?
Marahil ho, kung meron hong tutulay, pero wala naman hong tumuloy eh. Kaya wala hong nangyari.
Pero meron rin kayong sinabi that the ICC representatives as of January 2025 have been going in and out. Labas-pasok sila sa ating bansa. Hinahayaan lang natin.
Hindi ko po hindi ko ho alam yung pagpasok at paglabas nila.
Meron po
wala akong kaalaman sa pagpasok at paglabas. Marahil sa kanila pag-iimbestiga, labas-pasok sila dito. Ngunit wala akong nagsasabi sa akin na ICC po yung labas-pasok dito. Wala pong akong report sa immigration. Wala po akong report sa ating mga...
Kayo po nagsabi, kaya ako nalaman na may ICC representatives na labas-pasok dito sa ating bansa na hindi tayo umaalma, hindi tayo nagrereklamo. Yun na ang pagkasabi po ninyo.
Sabi nga namin dati pa, kung wala ho silang nilalabag na batas, ay malaya po silang maglabas-pasok sa ating bansa. Katulad po ng kahit sino pang turista o sino pong nais bumisita sa ating bansa.
Iba po yung pakay ng turista, iba naman yata ang pakay ng kinatawan ng ICC. So, nag-iba na talaga. Sa bandang January ng 2025, hinayaan na natin sila na lumabas-pasok dito sa ating bansa. Ganun po ba?
Hindi po wala tayong hinahayaan, hindi lang ho tayo nagtatanong kung hindi natin tinatanong ang lahat ng labas-pasok dito kung sila po ay ICC.
Pero
kasi nga sa dami po ng labas-pasok sa atin, hindi po natin tinatanong.
So hanggang Enero nitong taon, talagang maliwanag na labas-pasok na yung mga ICC. Ano?
Hindi ko po alam eh. Wala pa akong personal knowledge. I can only speak from personal knowledge.
Narito kasi sa Philippine Star at sinabi na I know that as anecdotally from people I know from the human rights community, they've been in contact here.
May mga nagkikwento po na may kausap silang ICC.
So alam po ninyo. Kasi sabi mo in-identify pa ninyo yung source. Sabi ninyo yung human rights people. Nagko-contact usap na. Di alam na ninyo na nandito na yung ICC.
Ay, hindi ko nalalaman kung nandun sila. Sinasabi lang nila may kausap sila. Hindi ko sinasabi ko saan sila nag-usap at paano. Pero, siyempre, marami hong gustong tumulay, ngunit hindi naman natin, hindi ho nagkaroon ng pagkakataon na makilala talaga namin ng ICC o makaharap. Kahit kailan po hindi namin nakaharap ang ICC.
Pero alam ninyo na megalaw na sila at nag-iimbestiga na sila.
7 taon na po silang gumagalaw, ma'am. 7 taon na. Hindi naman ngayon lang yan eh. 7 years ago, the ICC was already investigating what happened during the drug war.
What happened 7 years ago? Parang nahinto eh. Bakit sinabi natin na hindi na tayo
Yun lang po yung aking recollection kung kailan sila nagsimula. Parang 2016 nga, baka 9 years ago pa. Sinimulan na po nilang bantayan ang ating drug watch, yung ating drug war, nung nagsimula po yung patayan.
Pero matibay ang ating kalooban, matibay ang paninindigan natin na hindi natin tutulungan at talagang tututulan natin pagkat meron tayong sariling pulis, may sarili tayong mga korte. Ang liwaliwanag nun.
Opo.
Bago lamang...
Meron po tayong panahon na binabantayan dito. May panahon po tayong binabantayan dito. 2016 hanggang 2019 ay doon po ang kainitan ng drug war. At ito po, ang dami ho lumalapit sa aming opisina, humihingi ng tulong na maimbestigahan yung magpatay kung kani-kanino na lamang. Pero marami ho kaming talagang naging ano eh.
Kailan pumunta sa opisina ninyo? Kasi binabanggit ninyo, hindi pa Marcos administration, yung 2016 to 2019. Kailan nag-umpisa?
Simula ho sila pumunta sa amin, 2022 na. So matagal na ho nakalipas ang mga krimen na nangyari.
Pero nung umpisa, ang sinasabi natin, paulit-ulit, talagang hindi tayo tutulong at hindi natin hahayaan sila manghimasok. Maybe we can ask Secretary Anyo, sorry, kumakain po kayo, violation na naman ng human rights po to. Pero kung maaari bilang pinuno ng National Security Council, baka may naalam kayo tungkol sa pivot. Kasi parang nag-iba eh. Di nag-iba. Bakit nag-iba? Nung una, ang tindi ng ating paninindigan na hindi kailanman tayo tutulong sa ICC. Biglang lumambot. Nahahayaan natin pag pumasok sila. Tapos, pagkatapos nun, meron ng statement, uupo tayo. Kung may mamamagitan, pag-uusapan kung saan tayo pwede tumulong. Meron ba kayong alam, Secretary Anyo? Kasi maraming nagsasabi na kayo daw ang dahilan kung bakit nagbago ang isipan ng ating administrasyon.
Madam Chair, palagay ko po ay walang basis po yung ganong klaseng allegation sapagkat ito po ay legal na usapan at hindi po kami nag-focus sa legal na usapan sapagkat ang sa amin po ay on the lens of national security. Tapos wala rin po kaming na-monitor na pumasok dito ng mga ICC investigators nung sinasabi ng mga panahon na yan.
So wala kayong alam tungkol sa pagbabago ng isipan at polisiya ng ating administrasyon?
Wala po, Madam Chair.
At hindi rin kayo kasama sa pagpaplano ng aresto ni former President Duterte?
Ma'am, meron po akong opening statement. Pwede ko po bang basahin?
Siyempre, oo. In the meantime, if I may recognize the arrival of Senator Cayetano. Please proceed, Secretary.
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to start by thanking the Senate Committee on Foreign Relations, chaired by Senator Imee Marcos, for the opportunity to clarify the truth about what transpired during the arrest of former President Rodrigo Roa Duterte and other related matters. I believe this is also a good venue for me and my fellow officials to clarify what really happened and to debunk and dispel the false accusations and fake narratives that have misled the public about this issue. As government officials, it is our duty to be truthful and to assure the public that our actions were proper and in accordance with the law. I, for one, have been the victim of relentless disinformation campaign aimed at destroying the integrity and credibility I have carefully built over 4 decades of public service, which began the day I entered the hallowed halls of the Philippine Military Academy. While public officials are not supposed to be thin-skinned, I have rolled with the punches for several days. However, the time has come for me to air my side. Therefore, I am grateful for the opportunity to speak before the Senate and present the truth. As a former member of the cabinet of the Duterte administration, it is also very hard for me to see the former president arrested. I worked closely with former President Duterte for so many years through the most serious crisis the country faced, and we have developed and nurtured a personal friendship. He trusted and respected me in the same way I trusted and respected him, even after our terms ended in 2022. I retired from public service when former President Duterte ended his term. However, the repeated calls for public service came again, and 6 months after my retirement, I was appointed by President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. to be his national security advisor. I saw my appointment as a continuation of my service to the Filipino people across different administrations. As a soldier, my loyalty has always been to the Constitution and the chain of command. This has always been my principle when I served as the Commanding General of the Philippine Army under President Noynoy Aquino, then as AP Chief of Staff, and later as Secretary of the Department of Interior and Local Government under President Duterte, and now as National Security Advisor under President Marcos Jr. In its position, I've held under several administrations. I've never played politics. I do not have a political agenda, nor do I have, or will I ever have, political ambitions. I uphold the same principle in my role as National Security Advisor and Director General of the National Security Council. Thus, I'd like to state for the record that my role was limited to the mandate of my office to assess that the situation does not escalate into a national security concern. The implementation of the ICC warrant is beyond my mandate, and I had no part in it. And may I also state for the record that I am not aware of any core group, nor am I a member of such group that allegedly planned and prepared for the arrest of former President Duterte. In fact, it was only on Tuesday morning, March 11, 2025, that I learned that there was already an Interpol red notice and that the ICC warrant of arrest would be served. There was also no intelligence operation. The former president's presence in Hong Kong, as well as his return to the country, was a public knowledge since it was heavily reported in both mainstream and social media. It is utterly unacceptable and unfair that my name is being dragged into an alleged grand conspiracy. I firmly deny any allegations of a grand conspiracy. In fact, the events in March 11 were spontaneous. As National Security Advisor, I was merely doing my job. However, I face all these accusations against my honor and integrity with firm resolve, knowing that I am on the side of the truth, and I was simply doing what I had to do. And in doing so, I upheld the truth, justice, and the rule of the law. Again, my loyalty is always to the country, to the Constitution, and not to any person. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Salamat, Secretary Ed. Subalit sa kabila nito, nagsalita po ang ating mahal na Secretary John Vic na ang nagplano po rito, o yung pagkaintindi namin, ang nagplano ay kayo.
I would like
Secretary
to answer that.
Anyo, Secretary Gibo Chodoro, at ang pinangalan, ang Chief PNP, General Marbil. Parang apat yung pinangalanan sa isang interview ng ating Secretary ng DILG.
Can I answer that, ma'am?
Yes, please, you're recognized.
The question was, who planned this? I did not state in any way who planned it. The meeting was of executive privilege. It is a conversation between the president and the ones I mentioned. There were.
So what exactly did you say? Ano sinabi po ninyo?
They
Ang
asked me-
pagkaintindi namin, itong apat na pinangalanan, ang siyang nagplano.
Ma'am, we're already invoking
namin.
executive privilege in this matter.
Yes.
We're invoking executive privilege in this
Yes,
matter.
that's fine, but it's
Yes.
in the interview, and it's
Yes, ma'am.
public.
It goes as far as the interview, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
That's it.
I'd like to understand. I think your brother was
I
trying to
did not
explain
state in any
what
way.
he said in the interview, and I'm happy
They
to
asked
hear
me
it.
if I planned it. I said it was not me. There were other people in the room. but we did not discuss any plans of any arrest.
Saan nanggaling yung mga pangalan na ito?
Ma'am, that again is executive privilege. Ma'am, let
Pero
me explain, ma'am. Let me explain
nandun sa
first, ma'am.
interview po eh.
Yes, yes,
Ang
ma'am.
liwanag
Let
eh.
me explain first, ma'am. We were discussing rumors of an impending arrival based
Parang hindi
on...
yung ganun ang dating sa amin eh. Ang pagkaintindi
that is
namin,
the whole
apatan
truth,
ng plano.
ma'am. That is we were discussing rumors. Go ahead, ma'am.
Patugtog na lang natin para maintindihan ha.
What was and who was really on top of this? Kayo ho ba? Because during the press conference of the president, it was you and the president.
Yes.
So ikaw ho ba nagplano ng lahat ng ito?
Hindi naman, hindi naman. It was a group effort. Secretary Chidoro was there, Secretary Anyong was there too, and the President and I. So, hindi naman ako. Ako lang ang natira. I stand by that, ma'am. Last man standing doon sa Malacanang. I stand by that. Kasi Secretary Chidoro was working out of his office.
Napakaliwanag po ng sinabi ninyo. Wala namang mapakiyaw-kiyaw doon sa sinabi.
Yes, ma'am.
Patayin na muna natin. Napakaliwanag naman ang sabi ninyo, hindi ako mag-isa kahit ako ang kasama ng presidente nung nagsalita sa press con, hindi ako mag-isa ang nagplano. Isang grupo kami. Tapos pinangalanan mo.
No, ma'am.
Eh, sinabi ninyo eh.
I state, ma'am, again, executive privilege. But, ma'am,
walang executive privilege kasi binunyag na ninyo sa TV.
I must state it very clear, as I stated very clear, that there was no mastermind. We were discussing mainly about what the president's statements were in Hong Kong, and it was based all on that statement, ma'am.
Sinabi ninyo na hindi kayo mag-isa na nagplano, kundi isang
There was
grupo.
no planning, ma'am.
Pero yun ang sabi eh.
I said, hindi ako nagplano.
May isang grupo na nagplano.
We were all talking about a rumor, ma'am, and that was all.
Rumor lang yun?
Yes, ma'am.
Group effort ang sabi mo eh. Ang tanong niya kung ikaw ang nagplano, tapos sabi mo,
There was no
hindi,
planning,
group
ma'am.
effort.
There was no planning, ma'am.
Anong in-effort ng group kapag hindi plano?
I think that intruding into executive privilege already, ma'am. I think that we please respect
I'm just
our...
asking him to explain the media.
Yes, ma'am. But it's already a very thin dividing line between what transpires in a room between cabinet members and a media statement. But there's a very thin dividing line, ma'am.
Understood.
I hope that we can respect executive privilege.
Understood, and the Senate and the Secretary Chidoro is fully aware. Every time there's a need to recess to executive session, I'm happy to do so, and I will do so when necessary. Pero ngayon, sinabi kasi sa TV, paliwanag naman ninyo sa atin kung ano ibig sabihin. Kasi ang sinabi, hindi ako mag-isa na nagplano, may grupo kami.
They asked me if I had planned it. Sabi ko, I did not plan it. I said we were there. And not to skirt, ma'am, executive privilege, it was mainly because of the statements of the former president in Hong Kong that he said, in his words, ma'am, in Hong Kong, that, I think you have a clip, he said that, ang reading ko ay may ICC warrant of arrest na. That was the best of my recollection, ma'am.
So anong pinag-group effortan? Anong
To discuss the rumor, ma'am.
Grupo na
That, again,
pinangalanan
ma'am,
nyo?
as far as I will invoke executive privilege, there was you cannot plan on a rumor, ma'am.
Kaya nagtataka ako,
again,
bakit group effort? Chismis lang naman yun.
Chismis nga.
Yun nga, kung chismis, bakit mag-group effort pa? Tapos pinangalanan mo pa lahat na
maraming
nag-group
marites sa
effort?
mundo to, ma'am.
Dabis naman yung marites, dami-daming
It
marites
was a
sa amin.
discussion of a rumor based on the statement of the president in Hong Kong.
Nakakatuwa lang dahil chismis lang pala eh. Bakit sesentensyahan yung tao sa base ng chismis?
It was a discussion of a rumor based on the statement of the president in Hong Kong.
So you deny that you're part and parcel of the planning and that the other persons you named, hindi rin sila kasali dun sa pagpaplano?
Again, ma'am, we were discussing the statement of the former president while he was in Hong Kong that he said that he said, in his words, ang reading ko ay may warrant of arrest na ako. So that was the only basis of the conversation, ma'am.
So ito yung group effort ninyo?
Yes, ma'am.
Pinagtulong-tulungan ninyo yung isang bahagyang chismis?
It was, ma'am, all of that is, again, the statement of the former president, not ours.
Okay, so walang kinalaman to. Pero para lamang sa kaprasong chismis, magtitipon-tipon pa yung mga sekretary ng gabinete. Nakakatuwa naman.
Call it what you may, ma'am.
Walang magawa. Opo. Anyway, nabanggit na paulit-ulit itong Interpol, ano? At nabanggit na ng SOJ. At alam naman natin,
Ma'am,
yes
if
po.
I may, since
Yes, Secretary
our name
Teodoro,
was,
please. O kasi kasali kayo eh.
alluded to, the Department of National Defense and the Armed Forces of the Philippines has no law enforcement mandate. Our sole mandate is to give support to the Philippine National Police when it is asked for. And therefore, such ends our jurisdiction. The operation is clearly a law enforcement one, and the Philippine National Police has the power to ask the armed forces to assist. And that is the extent of the participation of my department and the armed forces of the Philippines. And all other matters in supporting the Philippine National Police are covered by operational security.